Many things about retirement can feel outside of your control. Investing for retirement can seem kind of scary because you may not be very involved with what's actually happening, and you want to be in control of some things. You want to know that you're doing the best that you can possibly do. Your advisor may tell you to just hang in there, and many times doing nothing is the right answer. However, I think it's nice to be able to know that you've done the things that you can do or control the things that you can control. And today I'm going to give you 3 things that you can control in your retirement investment planning scenario. Hey there, I'm Nick Davis, founder of Brindle and Bay Wealth Management. I'm here to show you how to master your retirement money so that you can retire with calmness and clarity. Real quick, if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, be sure to hit that subscribe button. All right, so what are these 3 things that you can control inside of your retirement investment plan? Well, the first of these 3 things is you can kind of control your taxes, okay? And so what I mean by that is have the right investments in the right types of accounts so that you don't have unnecessary tax bills and tax drag. Imagine that a person has a $40,000 income on their 1040 come tax time and they weren't aware that it was going to happen. That does happen to people. They never got to spend that extra money and they wonder why that happens. So it happens because, for example, mutual funds may decide to put out a gain because it was the goal of the mutual fund company, maybe not necessarily your goal, and you just get issued a gain and you never really saw it. Another reason that this could happen is that maybe you've got interest or dividends inside of your non-qualified accounts, or maybe your advisor rebalanced your portfolio and didn't properly prepare you for that rebalance or discuss it with you before they did it. And so you have these things that cause tax drag, things that give you these technical gains that you actually increases your income tax, but you weren't really aware of it. So do your best to be aware of controlling your tax situation inside of your investments. Ultimately, you want your plan to be designed to be as tax efficient as possible. You don't want to have the same types of investments in all of your different tax account types. So the second thing you can do to control your situation is to control your fees. And I want to point out the expense ratio. So the expense ratio inside of your investments they're basically the result of unnamed middlemen and women and marketing fees and things like that. And you don't just see those on your statement, you have to actually look them up. Now your advisor can look those up for you. You can go to Yahoo Finance. You can click on the little box and put your fund name in there. And then if you click on profile, it will then show you the expense ratio. So you can do that yourself if you'd like to. But if you've got a 0.65 internal cost, and maybe instead you could have a 0.05 internal cost, a lot of times that higher expense ratio doesn't give you a tremendous amount of benefit. For example, you may have the exact same holdings in this account over here or this fund that you have in, say, a lower cost exchange traded fund, an ETF, and therefore you're paying more than you need. A great question to ask is, well, what is my expense ratio and why am I paying that higher expense ratio when lower ones exist? Because if you have $1 million account, I mean, that's a 0.50% 0.50 extra expense ratio is $5,000 a year. Or a $500,000 account, it's half that. It's $2,500 extra per year. And this is not money that you see reported on your statement. This is just simply returns that don't get credited that could have technically been credited or hypothetically been credited to your account. So it is within your control to request lower expense ratios or the lowest expense ratios possible. It's nice to know that there's some things that you can control. Now on to the third thing that you can control, and that is the amount of risk that you take. How can you control something that you're not aware of? And I would argue that most people are not aware of the amount of risk that they have, and because they think, well, they say it's just a word. It means I'm a conservative investor, I'm a moderate investor, I'm an aggressive investor. the rubber doesn't really hit the road. You're not really equating that to anything that really matters. So if you think that's what risk is, that's not really helping you. So I want to give you a better way to know how much risk you're taking today. In fact, I think it's better for you to know how much variation that you should expect. I think that should be connected more closely to the word moderate investor or conservative investor. And there's a really great way to do this. One popular solution is based on a Nobel Prize winning software. And what they did is they took your risk and they labeled it 1 to 99, 1 being very low risk, 99 being very high risk. And what you can do is you can actually take the similar kind of quiz that you would take at an advisory firm where they ask you if you're moderate or conservative, but instead it will give you your own personal risk number. And so, for example, instead of being moderate, you might be a 42. And if you're aggressive, you might be a 70 something in risk. So for example, if you are a 42 risk and if you have $657,000 being measured, well, then that means that you can have a variation between 2 points. Negative 40 something to positive 90 something will happen 95% of the time. That gives you a much more dollars and cents way of relating to it. In fact, people that think they're a moderate conservative may not realize that that much fluctuation is built into their plan. And so it's very helpful to be aware of what that fluctuation can potentially be and how much fluctuation you've actually signed up for. Interestingly, your investments also have a risk number. And so if you were hypothetically a 42 risk, what are your investments? Are your investments a 61, a 72? It's really helpful for you to be able to know those two numbers. Now, if you want to know what your risk number is, in the show notes, we have a link where you can click on it, you can take a little quiz, and you can discover your own risk number for yourself. An important thing about knowing your risk number is taking risk off the table or knowing if you can take risk off your table. So for example, why take the extra risk if you don't need to, or you might need to take risk to catch up? So if your goals are going to be met, it'd be nice to know that so that you don't have all this extra risk on the table. And how can we know that if we only take a quiz that tells us that we are a conservative or a moderate investor? So in conclusion, a lot of stuff you can't control, but you can control your taxes a little bit, you can control your fees somewhat, and you can control how much risk you actually have. If you want to be notified when I cover 2 or 3 more things that you can control, be sure to subscribe. Hey everybody, Nick Davis here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this, please consider subscribing. Also, if you would like to see the way that we help people master their retirement money so that they can go on to that next phase with calmness and joy, take a look at us at brindleandbay.com.